Hi, everybody. This is SAAD for the SAAD Truth. Last night, I received a message from a fan on my public Facebook page. It was a private message, though, wherein he pointed me to an article, the typical sort of postmodern gibberish nonsense identity politics article that I often will read manifestations of on this channel. Now, some of you might wonder, okay, great, we get it. You don't like that stuff, but why do you read that stuff? Why do you spend so much time critiquing this stuff? Well, I do for several reasons. Number one, when someone robs a bank, they commit a crime. In this case, they're attacking our sense of safety. They're potentially attacking the money that we've saved. And so there are all sorts of criminals that we put away because they are stealing from us. They're attacking our sense of peace. They are attacking our sense of security. Well, these postmodern types and identity politic types, as I've called them recently, I coined them intellectual terrorists because they attack our sense of reason, our sense of common sense, but they also steal our students' valuable time and tuition fees and taxpayer money. So, but most importantly, I attack them because I'm a purist. I believe that academics are in the business of doing their best in adding to the pantheon of human knowledge as best as they can, as honestly as they can. And when someone comes along that is perfectly hell-bent on destroying the whole enterprise of what it is to be an academic, right? I'm not arguing that physics is more scientific than sociology. That's not my point. Anyone who is adding to the pantheon of human knowledge is contributing to this endeavor. These folks are not. They are intellectual anarchists. They are intellectual nihilists. They are intellectual terrorists. So this is why I spend my time on a Saturday morning after getting off the elliptical. This is why my hair is wet. I just came out of the shower. Why I will spend some time today reading for you this latest contribution from, in this case, queer theory. Now, many of you are familiar with my satire, my sarcasm, and I use these, as I've explained before, akin to a surgeon's scalpel. Right? A surgeon's scalpel is very sharp. It cuts through whatever it needs to cut through to get to the heart of the matter, so to speak. And that's what satire and sarcasm and humor do. Now, the incredible thing, as again I've remarked on several occasions, my satire, with all due modesty, is many, many times prophetic because I satirize something in the most incredibly exaggerated ways, and then at some future time period T, that exact manifestation of my satire proves to be an actual instance of the lunacy that we're facing. And so the next paper that I'm going to read for you would exactly be the type of stuff that I would come up with if I were offering some satirical entry within the pantheon of satire, SAAD, S-A-A-D, tire. So here we go. All right, this is a paper published in the International Feminist Journal of Politics. By the way, if you're wondering what is feminist politics, none other than Sweden pursued a foreign policy, a feminist foreign policy. That's not, you could look it up. Feminist foreign policy, Sweden. Canada, of course, is also pursuing a feminist domestic and feminist international policy under our dear leader, Justin Trudeau. For example, our cabinet has to have gender parity. There you go. So this is the International Feminist Journal of Politics, published in 2015 by Cara Daggett, who I looked quickly. Her personal page is protected. Wonder why? You have to enter some sort of code to access it. You would think that as a public servant, she's a professor now at a I think a public university, Virginia Tech, if I'm not mistaken, is a public school. You can't just access her CV. But in any case, Kara Daggett obtained her PhD at Johns Hopkins University. So this is not some quack online school that is housed in some Caribbean island, not a diploma mill. This is Johns Hopkins. And so I guess maybe this was part of her doctoral work. I'm not sure. But in any case, the paper is titled Drone Disorientations. Drone meaning, the drones that are used to attack terrorists in Waziristan. So drone disorientations. You ready? Here we go. By the way, it is the winner of the Enloe Award. It's some award apparently by some pioneer of feminist militarism. I'm not making this up. So here we go. So the title is Drone Disorientations, How Unmanned, quote, weapons queer the experience of killing in war. So now we're going to use queer theory to explain drones. This is not my satire, I swear. I know that I recently released a SAAD TRUTH clip wherein I read a transcript between Professor Dr. Justin Trudeau, or no, rather Grand Mufti Justin Trudeau and Professor Dr. Bill Nye, and people didn't know if it was real or if it was my satire. In this case, I promise you that it is not satire. I'm actually reading an article, and I'll post a link to the article in question. So here we go. Killing with drones produces queer moments of disorientation. Drawing on queer feminology, I show how militarized masculinities function as spatio-temporal landmarks that give killing in war its orientation and make it morally intelligible. These bearings no longer make sense for drone warfare, which radically deviates from two of its main axes, the home combat and distance intimacy binaries. Through a narrative methodology, I show how descriptions of drone warfare are rife with symptoms of an unresolved disorientation, often expressed as gender anxiety over the failure of the distance, intimacy, and home combat axes to orient killing with drones. The resulting vertigo sparks a frenzy of reorientation attempts, but disorientation can lead in multiple and sometimes surprising directions, including, but not exclusively, more violent ones. With drones, the point is that none have yet been reliably secured, and I conclude by arguing that in the midst of this confusion, it is important to not lose sight of the possibility of new paths and the, quote, hope of new directions, close quote. Bravo, bravo. Wow, these folks are so deep, too deep for me. All right, so let's look at the introduction. By the way, really, it's worth reading the whole paper. It's just breathtaking. This person gets paid from your taxpayers' dollars to produce the stuff. Introduction. Drones queer the experience of killing in war. By the way, I won't read the references and the citations. New drone geographies and bodies, fleshy, steely, pixelated, prosthetic, cannot be located along the hierarchy of militarized masculinities that helps to render killing in war morally intelligible. For the most part, militarized masculinities have proven exceptionally resilient in adapting to technological change. With drones, the readaptation has yet to be secured. Drone warfare remains slippery and illegible, and herein lies its potential as a site for queer politics. In order to explore the queerness of killing with drones, I draw upon Sarah Ahmed's queer phenomenology to understand drone warfare as disorienting, the sensation we feel when we venture off the, quote, straight lines of heteronormative sexual orientation. I'm not joking. This is not my satire. I swear on Darwin. This orientation is, quote, vital to Ahmed, as it is often only through being disoriented when we lose our direction, our sense of being at home among familiar objects, that, quote, we might learn what it means to be oriented in the first place, close quote. However, Ahmad warns that this orientation does not necessarily spark progressive reactions, given that, quote, bodies that experience disorientation can be defensive as they reach out for support or as they search for a place to regroup and reorient their relation to the world, close quote. What is important for queer politics, then, is not disorientation itself, but rather cultivating openness toward disorientation as, open quote, the point is what we do with such moments of disorientation as well as what such moments can do, whether they can offer us the hope of new directions and whether new directions are reason enough for hope, close quote. In this light, queer politics becomes a broader, quote, political orientation, but Ahmad also insists that it remains allied to a sexual orientation. As to, quote, lose sight of the sexual specificity of queer would also be to overlook how compulsory heterosexuality shapes what coheres as given and the effects of this coherence on those who refuse to be compelled. There you have it, folks. We've now queered drones, not satire. Please look in the description section for the link to this article. Again, I spend a lot of time combating this nonsense and have done so for many decades now in academia, because this stuff is an injury to truth. These are enemies of reason. These are intellectual charlatans who not only are stealing your hard-earned money as taxpayers, but they are stealing your children's soul when they attend the queering drone course at Virginia Tech. I don't know if such a course exists, but you get my point. Cheers.